And this is one thing I've always wanted to talk to you about. Can we talk about it really quick?
I
need to bring this up. This is one of the craziest feats that's ever happened.
Mayo experience.
Mayo experience. Mayo experience. Mayo experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience. One more time, talking Super Bowl, trying to figure out who is going to win this, which players are going to go over their numbers, under their numbers, what are the biggest storylines of this game. We've almost fleshed it all out, but we're not quite there yet. So you good people out there, smash a like to the channel and sub to Mayo Media Network. If the DraftKings Listeners League is not yet filled, then hit the description and go fill it. The free newsletter is down there as well, where I'll have the final same game parlays, the prize picks, the props, everything that you need to know about the big game. If you do not have the copyright to Super Bowl, which I don't, but JJ Zachariason from LateRound.com, who is on the line. I'm too small that no one cares anyway that I could say Super Bowl.
I like it. It's good to talk to you, man.
First time in 8 years we've done this. Since
is that how long?
FSWA, I think it was then called, in New York.
New York. Yeah, I remember that. That fondly. Under the bright lights and just sweating our you-know-what's off throughout that time.
At least I think you came on. I don't think we've ever talked football on a show together. I think we talked about The Bachelor that day.
We talked about The Bachelor that day.
And we are talking about the challenge on this show, and we will be spoiling the challenge. So that's going to be at the back end. If you just want to jump to the challenge, hit the time codes. It'll be super easy to go do that. And if you don't care about the challenge, well, fuck you. But you should probably get into it. Although people say the season has been bad, you included as a little tease, but I've actually quite enjoyed it.
I will say I think my challenge takes are better than my football takes. So I'll throw that out there as a little teaser for people.
Oh, come on. Listen to who you're on with. You're going to pretend like you're the guy that has bad takes? Please.
I'm serious. But maybe it's just my challenge takes are that good that they're just that much better.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Kansas City or San Francisco?
I haven't really taken sides this week. There are definitely players that I feel good about, don't feel good about. Right now I'm leaning San Francisco. If I were to throw a score out there, 24-21 type final, I think the line is pretty on point. When it got to San Francisco -1, I thought it was easy to pound San Francisco, but things have shifted a little bit back to where it was at open. I think San Francisco is the more complete team, top to bottom, but I think the obvious go-to comeback to that is but Andy Reid, but Patrick Mahomes. So there's always that but when you're facing Kansas City. But I think that there's, one of the biggest matchups in this entire game that I think could really, really favor San Francisco is the fact that we know that Steve Spagnuolo and that defense loves to blitz. Brock Purdy has been one of the best quarterbacks this season against the blitz. And so they're going to have to change something up defensively, I think, if they're going to find success in this game. They can't just do, the Pittsburgh Steeler way and just jam their way of doing things and playing football into their opponent's throat. It's just not going to work. That's why New England beat Pittsburgh over and over and over again throughout the 2000s during the Brady era. I think that Kansas City is going to have to get creative defensively and do things a little bit differently, or else I think Brock Purdy's going to be fine against them because he has those outlets in Debo and CMC back there.
Have you noticed all season long that the Niners offense game to game seems to concentrate on two of its players? I mean, it's always McCaffrey and then one of the, very rarely do you see hey, Debo has 4 for 51 and Kittle has 5 for 65 and Ayuk has 4 for 61 and the love is spread out. It's usually oh yeah, here's our matchup. We're going to pound this into the ground.
100%. And I think that guy in this game for San Francisco, aside from Christian McCaffrey, I mean, he's going to get his, right? It's just the way that it works. I think George Kittle is the guy who could really blow up for San Francisco. If you look at Kansas City, they have a weakness at safety. That's where George Kittle is obviously matchup wise, that'll help him at tight end. Kansas City ended up seeing the 4th highest adjusted, so this adjusts for strength of opponent, target share to the tight end position. So that's against, the defensively. And so that's again, favoring a guy like Kittle. I like a Kittle more than, betting overs on him much more than an Ayuk, who I think, from just a cornerback matchup standpoint is just in a little tougher spot. I could see an argument for Debo a little bit for what I talked about before with the blitz, if they don't change things up, they should be able to generate some pressure at least. And there's an outlet for Brock Purdy with a guy like Debo. But George Kittle has the matchup, I think, in this game. And so I like a lot of the overs for Kittle in this game.
Yeah, I see. I'm on the Debo bandwagon. Like Debo
Yeah, I could
MVP,
understand that too.
Debo MVP 25-1. I think Kittle MVP is 70-1. And just like narratively talking through it, I did this on the Best Bet show with Rob and Cam as well, that it does feel like a skill position player on San Francisco will win MVP if they win, versus if Kansas City wins, Mahomes just probably, unless there is such an outlier game for someone like Rashee Rice ends up with 13 catches, or Kelsey does, whatever it might be. Pacheco scores 4 touchdowns. If it's just like a 24-21 game, Mahomes throws for like 225 and 2 touchdowns, that's probably enough for him. But that's not for Brock Purdy.
Yeah, no, I agree. And like you said, I mean, obviously you see it in Kansas City too, where a lot of the targets get funneled, to a Rashee Rice or Travis Kelsey. But when you have Patrick Mahomes, you have the storyline, it's a lot easier to just go. I mean, we saw that with Tom Brady throughout his career too, where when New England would win, despite a James White performance or a Julian Edelman performance or what have you, Brady would end up winning Super Bowl MVP because that's just how things work in the NFL and how they vote. But I think that there's just a very separate narrative when it comes to Brock Purdy, as we know. And so given the fact that what we just talked about, where they do end up funneling and really using matchups to their advantage and really targeting these individual guys on a per game basis, like this is a Kittle game or this is a Debo game and this is an Ayuk game. I do think going that route makes a lot of sense. I don't mind MVP wise though throwing a dart at Isaiah Pacheco either. I know it's become more and more popular. His rushing prop, it seems like literally everything that I've read and listened to this week, some analyst is telling you to bet the over on his rushing prop, which is hovered around that like 67.5 mark throughout the week, which I can't disagree with. I mean, he's been that he's hit the over in 4 straight games. He's done it in the playoffs every game. Jerick McKinnon maybe being back might hinder that a little bit, but to me, Jerick McKinnon's going to hurt his receiving prop more than what we're going to see on the ground from Pacheco. And San Francisco can get gashed, man. I mean, on the ground. I mean, that's a weakness for them. And so, we saw that against Detroit. David Montgomery had a great game, against San Francisco, another bigger bodied bruiser like Isaiah Pacheco. So I like Isaiah Pacheco's ground game numbers too. And I wouldn't, I would be surprised if Pacheco won Super Bowl MVP. I would be surprised if anyone outside of Mahomes and maybe a Kelsey, if Kansas City wins, would win. But the odds are long. I mean, like, it's not a bad dart to throw, in my opinion.
Yeah, the Kittle, it's 60-1 at DraftKings right now. I think you can find like a 75-1 out there. It's just, we know that multiple touchdown game exists for him, that basically, I mean, he's not a lock to win MVP if he catches 2 touchdowns. But if you go and look at it, his odds for what are they to catch 2 touchdowns, I think they're 11-1. Well, if he's going to do that, like, he's super live for MVP at that point. Obviously, I guess the way that you would have to kind of rig it up would be if you go into same game parlay, you would go 2 touchdowns for Kittle plus San Francisco money line, see what that is. And I believe that comes out to be like 30-1 versus the MVP, which could be 75-1. So you're just better off. It wouldn't be, I would say that, what would you think the probability is on that? That if Kittle catches 2 touchdowns, what would be the probability that he ends up MVP? 50%?
Yeah, I mean, it'd be high. I mean, if Kittle scores 2 and they win, and that's the assumption. Yeah, we assume those things. Yeah, I mean, I'd say, because here's the other thing that I think is very important. I don't know for sure that we're going to get a shootout in this game. I think that Kansas City's defense is playing extremely well. That's arguably a key reason, or the key reason why they're where they're at. No shade to Mahomes. He's played great throughout the playoffs, especially considering where they were in December and late December. But even look at Baltimore in that game. I mean, the offense died in the second half of that game. It's not like they've been so lights out. And then we've seen San Francisco start slow as well offensively in both of their playoff games. And so, I wouldn't be shocked if it's a lower scoring game. If it's a lower scoring game, we know that these MVPs typically go to offensive players. And if it's a lower scoring game, that means that there's going to be some variance potentially. I say lower scoring. I'm not expecting like a 13-10 final or anything like that. But, if we see like low 20s or, like a 44 over or 44 point total or something like that, that means that there's going to be a lot of variance involved in who that one player winning MVP could be, because there are just fewer scores in general. If a quarterback's not throwing 4 touchdown passes, then it's not obvious to give the MVP necessarily to the quarterback. Like if Purdy and Mahomes both have 2 touchdowns or a touchdown, then it could go in a lot of different directions. So if a guy like Kittle ends up scoring twice, that's a great example of a player that could end up winning Super Bowl MVP, because that might be 2 of the 3 touchdowns that San Francisco scores and getting that win.
Is there anyone from down the list, first touchdown wise, on either team that you're thinking of? Like, I was thinking of, well, it's funny that you mentioned Jarek. Like, if Jarek does come back, I would most definitely bet him for first touchdown, because that is exactly how this would play out. But other than that, Jarek's 40-1, but Justin Watson's 40-1 too. I thought that was odd.
Yeah, the last one, there was a Super Bowl, the first one that Mahomes won, where I went with his the first touchdown being Mahomes, and it worked. He ended up scoring a rushing touchdown early in that game. I usually go after quarterbacks in the playoffs often on the ground, because they do play a little bit more D-gaffy. They're a little bit more aggressive. They're not afraid of getting destroyed because of what's at stake. And so, I know the Purdy 12.5 number has been pushed a lot to go over by analysts and such.
I don't like it, by the way.
Yeah, I'm not as into it as others are too. I mean, there's reason to not be as bullish for sure. But I think from an first touchdown, anytime touchdown standpoint, I don't mind looking at the quarterbacks. I've seen darts thrown at Kyle Juszczyk, which I think is at least fun. And then, I don't mind going with like the secondary options in Kansas City mostly. Like Jerick McKinnon would be really, really fun if he ends up going, like you said, even like a Noah Gray, who will randomly get, those looks close to the end zone in these exotic packages. I could see them go in that direction too. But yeah, I think if McKinnon goes though, that's a really good call.
Yeah, just the way that he's utilized in the red zone is always just so weird to me. Like, you wouldn't think that he would be used that way, but I think they like having him in just so they can like flick the ball off.
He's versatile. Yeah, he's super versatile. Yeah.
RunTheSims.com is free this week for everyone out there. So if you want to go in and optimize some DraftKings lineups, FanDuel lineups, it really doesn't matter what it is. You can go customize all that. You can also customize all your projections. You can mess around with the inputs, and everything will be updated up until game time. No credit card, no PayPal, just an email, and you get full access to the site. But the Prop Sniper is really where it's at. So I'm looking at our first touchdown simulator right now. So it kind of compares everything to the odds in the simulator, which I'm guessing that you ran projections on this, and maybe it looks that way to you too. Brock Purdy is the best bet for first touchdown. It's not a good, there's 6 guys, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys who are in the positive in terms of like a little bit of expected value, depending on the site that you bet it. For example, to bet Brock Purdy at DraftKings at 28-1 is actually a bad bet, but he's 43-1 at FanDuel, which actually is a positive bet based on the expectation. Like, there's such a margin in between that basically once every 38 times Brock Purdy scores the first touchdown in this game. So it's Brock Purdy, Justin Watson, who I mentioned, at 40-1. That number's at DraftKings. Mahomes, who you mentioned, 25-1 is 4th. Noah Gray is 5th at 55-1. And the only other 2 that are positives are Debo at 10-1 and Rashee Rice at 10-1. And they're like a slight positive.
And they're not fun. That's not fun. Going with Debo and Rashee Rice isn't fun for a first touchdown.
No, it's not. But I'm so used to talking golf odds. And this is like a trap that I fall into too with golf. It's like Scotty Scheffler. Actually, I bet Justin Thomas this week at 13-1. So if people are watching this and he's like 8 over par, like, sorry, lost the bet. But people are like, oh, I can't believe you just bet favorites in golf at 13-1. But when we hear about a 9-1 in football, it's like, oh yeah, we can go.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, like I get the bet. I understand the bet for sure. It's the Super Bowl, man. You gotta, there's such an entertainment factor to it that I am cool with throwing that like crazy Noah Gray dart, as the first touchdown.
Who do you think actually has a better chance of scoring the first TD? Gray or Watson?
Oh, I don't know. I'd have to dig into it a little bit. I might, I mean, this is anecdotal, subjective, just off the top of my head. I'd probably say Gray.
Really? Just because
I might.
Just because the 2 tight end sets?
Yeah, and like the way they operate, within the 10. But yeah, I don't have a strong opinion between Noah Gray and Justin Watson, that's for sure.
I mean, you could probably bet both. They're 40-1 and 55-1. Like, that's fine.
Yeah. But no, I mean, I don't mind the matchup there per se. If they do run some 12 personnel, close to the end zone or in the red zone, I guess I'd say Gray, but again, I'm not going to like be mad at someone if they want to go with Justin Watson.
I suppose that's true. I was looking at the Pacheco over-under just in terms of rushing. It is basically our numbers have it almost exactly on the line where it's supposed to be. I know that everyone does like the over, but the projection we have is 68 and the total is 68.5. Like that's a no for us.
Yeah. I look, I mean, it's one of those bets where, it's strange to me that the number is where it is because that the line is where it is because if you look at what Pacheco's done without Jerick McKinnon in particular, and if you assume that McKinnon is not going to be a huge part of this game, I mean, Pacheco's seeing literally 90% of the team's running back rushes every week. He is their ground game guy. And, if McKinnon's out, it's just hard. And if you look at what he's done without McKinnon, there's only been one game where he's hit the under with this line. So that's why I think people are just naturally going over with it. I'm just surprised that I haven't seen that much movement with it. I mean, if you see 68.5, maybe that's a yard. It depends on what book you're pulling it from. But like, I mean, I'm surprised that it hasn't seemed to change that much.
Yeah, the one that's taken the biggest crater so far is the Brock Purdy under pass attempts. I think it was like 34.5. Now it's 30.5. Like our numbers still like it at like 26 or something like that. I mean, that's not a fun Super Bowl bet whatsoever, but it seems to be a pretty good bet, if nothing else.
Yeah, I think it's logical for sure, especially, if you're favoring San Francisco in this game, or if you think that it's even going to be close. Kansas City can be beat on the ground, and obviously Christian McCaffrey, he's the one factor. CMC is the one guy that San Francisco didn't. I mean, obviously they had Jimmy Garoppolo the last time they played Kansas City in the Super Bowl, but they didn't have CMC. I mean, it's a big difference. And they've been really leaning on him, obviously throughout the season, but also he's had some like that Packers game. He had absurd usage in that Packers game, but that was without Debo a little bit. But even still, it was crazy.
How much Elijah Mitchell do you think we'll see?
Not much.
4.5 yards.
I mean, that's
they used him to ice the game.
I know that's what I'm saying. That's a line that I just kind of ignore and I just don't attack. I mean, because you could see it, but at the same time, it's the final game. What are they not going to use CMC for?
It's probably just that. I thought that was really strange. Was that not to get CMC hurt, or do they have a thing like, Elijah Mitchell may not be nearly as good as Christian McCaffrey, but if there's one thing he does better than anyone, it's ball security.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, I know that last game, what CMC was dealing with sort of like a neck situation towards the end of the NFC Championship game or something, and I know they threw Elijah Mitchell in there, and he scored that touchdown towards the end of that game against Detroit, right? And so, I just, it's a Super Bowl. Teams are going to optimize what they're doing because next week does not matter. There's nothing to look forward to with these players.
I still doubt we'll see like a Mahomes sneak or tush push though. They just will not do.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna see. Yeah, that's more of like a career threatening thing at this point. The way that with what happened against Denver with his kneecap the one time.
I'm trying to find the Isaiah Pacheco over. It's over 2.5 receptions is his total. But I think that if we looked at like some of the alt lines, our Sims love. And even Pizzola brought up on the Best Bet show, like, I think it's 40-1. Pacheco is the highest receiver in the game in terms of yardage. That if you think that Kansas City gets behind and think about the defense that San Francisco plays, where they're not going to go all out blitz the entire time, they're just going to try to drop everyone back. That if Jerick doesn't play, obviously, or just sees limited reps, that if Pacheco is the one out there, he could just be in line for a bunch of dump offs.
Yeah. I mean, they definitely used him that way against Baltimore. They hadn't used him. I mean, so running back is interesting because you can look at target share, but route participation is way better to analyze with running back just to see if they're out there even running routes in the first place. His route participation hasn't really changed that much with Jerick McKinnon out. What changed early on in the playoffs was they weren't targeting him that much, but they did against Baltimore to make you feel a little bit more bullish about something like that. So yeah, I mean, I don't mind that either, especially if McKinnon's out. I do fear that, if McKinnon ends up going, and don't forget, like, Sky Moore is going to play this week too.
Is he going to play, or is he just active?
Well, I saw that he was practicing and stuff, so I shouldn't say that it's definitive right now. But, that throws a little bit of a wrench in that wide receiver rotation potentially. Not that I think that he's like good, but I don't think Justin Watson's very good either. So everyone outside of like a Rashee Rice, all of a sudden, you're going to see a dip in snaps and routes run just because of that. And I could see that potentially having an impact on Pacheco. Hopefully we hear a little bit more over the next 48 hours about what McKinnon's role might look like.
Well, if we do get Sky Moore back, and we do, is Tony going to play or not?
I don't know.
I don't think he is.
But the other thing with Pacheco, to go back to that, San Francisco, their adjusted target share allowed to running backs was top 5 this year. So again, that just plays into the idea of the dump offs and them using him in that way, because they do play a little concern. Like they do make sure that they're not going to be giving up those like monster plays and such.
Yeah, you can see like you can play like his alt lines right now. So like plus or let's see. Over 25 yards for Pacheco receiving is like plus 160. Over 40 yards is 9-1. That might be the look.
Yeah, I like that.
And you can same game parlay it with over 2.5 receptions if you want. Mm-hmm. And then you get to, what is that? Actually, yeah, so it's 40-1. So it's not 9-1, sorry. Over 2.5 receptions and 40 or more receiving yards is plus 450. So I don't mind that so much. What about Richie James? I keep seeing his prop pop up, and it's like it's the most obvious under of all time. But is he live to be like 1 catch for 7 yards and we never see him again?
I mean, it's possible for sure, but I would probably say that that's another reason to like another player that if Sky Moore does go, then you can feel more confident in going under and just assuming that he's not going to be that involved.
I suppose that's true. Is Kyle Shanahan Andy Reid from 20 years ago?
Oh, wow, that's an interesting question.
Well, just think about like how many consecutive NFC Championship games did the Eagles go to?
Mm-hmm.
Like 7, 6.
Yeah, it's a good thought. I think Shanahan's great. Yeah, I mean he might be, and all he needs then is a Patrick Mahomes to guide him. I mean it's pretty incredible what he's done with what he's had specifically at quarterback. And his offense is not even running the same kind of way that his offense is typically run. He's evolved, he's changed things. He's just a great coach. Is he Andy Reid? I think that it might be premature just because we've seen what Andy Reid has now accomplished. But I do think that the parallels are there. I haven't thought of it that way though.
Yeah, so he's pre-Mahomes Andy Reid, like Andy Reid when he had Alex Smith in Kansas City.
Yeah, that's fair.
And then you got Purdy. Like, what do the Niners do with Purdy? Let's say he wins the Super Bowl. They have him for another year, I think, under contract. But like, you can't give Brock. Like, is he good enough to give like a decent chunk of money to?
I think that Purdy. The only reason why I kind of want San Francisco to win is because I just want to see the chaos with the Purdy takes, right? Like, I just want to see the doubters, and like I doubted it too last year, and then you go into this year and you're like, okay, he's got the starting gig. Weapons situations there. The thing with Purdy is that you can look at sort of, I don't want to say totally agnostic statistics that, don't worry about the surroundings whatsoever, but you can look at certain things and see that he was still a very above average quarterback, regardless of the surroundings, regardless of the situation. Great deep ball passer this season. And of course you're going to say, oh, they have Brandon Ayuk, they have George Kittle. Other players have decent enough weapons to be able to be good in these statistics. Of course, Brock Purdy's are better, but we got to give the dude a little bit of credit. Can he work in the system? Yeah. I mean, as everyone else is noting about the whole system quarterback thing, every quarterback works within the system, right? Jared Goff was trash his first year with Jeff Fisher, and then Sean McVay comes around, and Jared Goff is a competent quarterback, and then he, has Ben Johnson in Detroit, and he's in all of that matters. The structure, the situation, all of that matters tremendously. So if Brock Purdy wins a Super Bowl this year, why can he not win a Super Bowl again with this franchise? And I would bet that he's still going to get somewhat of a discount, or the 49ers would get somewhat of a discount on a contract, as opposed to going out and either trying to find Mahomes and using a Mahomes type and using an insane amount of capital to do so, and probably not succeeding because it's impossible to find that, or going out and getting maybe a minor upgrade in a Kirk Cousins type, but you're going to probably pay more for a Kirk Cousins type. So to me, like, if they win, if is a given, then you got to just ride Brock Purdy. I think like this is it. Like he's their quarterback.
Should it be? I mean, I like this Jared Goff thing because I think that like Purdy, is there that much? Is there a difference between Purdy and Goff? Like Purdy just seems like more mobile Goff.
Yeah, I don't think there necessarily has to be. No, like I think Goff could probably get this team to where it is, and I think Purdy is a little bit smarter with his decision making than Goff can be at times. I think his pocket presence is a little bit better. But yeah, I mean, I think that there's not I think that when we have these debates about players, there's not enough. There's such a focus on only the elite play callers and only the elite coaching staffs, and there's not enough talk about just like the fact that there is a lot of gray area with a lot of these coaching staffs in general. I mean, look at Pittsburgh right now. Look at Kenny Pickett starting his career with Matt Canada and not a lot going on. What if Kenny Pickett had
Bigger
one
hands?
of the best? Yeah, bigger hands, number one. But, and I'm not saying Kenny Pickett's good. This is not my argument. I'm just saying, think about a world where there's a very competent offensive coordinator running things in Pittsburgh and how different things might be for Kenny Pickett, not from the sense that he'd be elite or anything like that, but from the sense that people wouldn't be talking about him not having his job next year. Or, we've seen like random resurgences from quarterbacks through the years that just get better offensive situations. Look at Baker Mayfield in Tampa Bay with Canales, who's now obviously the head coach in Carolina, but we saw with Geno with Canales. I mean, you get the right system and the right people around you, you can be okay. And I think that as long as you have that stability in the system itself, which I think we will in San Francisco because Kyle Shanahan's probably not going anywhere, then you can ride it out with Brock Purdy and probably ride it out at a semi-discount compared to what you would get elsewhere.
All right, so I want to play let's do a Prize Picks slip here because if you go to Prize Picks right now and use code DOP, the link is down in the description. You get a $100 deposit match. You deposit $100, you get a free $100 to play around with. So you get really by depositing $100, you get $200. But it works for like if you want to play 25, you can get 50, that kind of thing. So with up to $100, you get double your money. PrizePicks.com, code DOP, link in the description. There's a free square on the board, and you can bet up to like $25 on it. So you can play more than Patrick Mahomes' 0.5 passing yards if you want to, as a part of something. You like Kittle at 50 and a half. Kittle. I think we can go with that. Throw that one on. Do we have other random ones that we can play with this? Like I like the Debo over, wherever the hell that is, over 59 and a half.
I mean, can you throw Ayuk under in there?
We can, for sure. Ayuk.
If we're going, we might as well just go all in here, right? And
yeah, well, I always try to tell people like with the because I think you can only go up to $25 if you use that like 0.5 passing yards with Mahomes. Yeah. That it's like having a free bet on a sports book. Like, don't use it on a coin flip. Basically, just that is the time to make the stupid giant same game parlay and bet your free bet on it. Like, it's free. Right. You have to use the bet. So you can only use this square up to $25. You may as well try to max out your $25 on it. Yeah. So we got Kittle over 50 and a half, Mahomes over 0.5 passing yards, Debo over 59 and a half receiving yards, Ayuk under 64 and a half receiving yards. I mean, that Pacheco more than 17 and a half receiving yards?
Sure.
I mean, now we got a 5-banger. So how did that drop it? That doesn't seem to make any sense. Payout shift. All right, so whatever combination that we had, I've never seen this before. That if we do, it's because it's now a flex play. I see. So we don't want to do a flex play. We want to do like a regular play because we actually get paid out on everything here. So let's just do 4 then. Let's even just get rid of the Ayuk one for the moment. We'll do Pacheco. Overs are more fun. Let's root for that.
Yeah.
Pacheco, Debo, Kittle with the specialty on Patrick Mahomes. And let's see what we can get in on that. Can we get 30? Can we get 50? Let's see. No, 25 is the most we can get it. So 25 into 235, 237.50 is what you can get on that one. And that's just with all overs. If you wanted to do unders or do a 6-banger and try to get like 30x on your money, but obviously then you need to hit 2 more legs, then that's what you can do. So you can pre-order at lateround.com your guide now, right?
That's right. Yeah. Prospect guide, lateround.com, $11.99 right now, $14.99 when it publishes in March. It'll just go to your email whenever it publishes. And I'm just looking at all the prospects sort of analytically. I watch the guys, but my bread and butter is with my prospect models and such, and it's fun.
It's funny because I know that you were big on Puka in the preseason last year, and devotees of this show will know that I too was big on Puka, probably for different reasons. I think that you liked his skill set. I decided that he was playing with the ones, and I was like, good enough for me.
Yeah, I mean, he had a really interesting profile coming out. So like in the prospect guide, I have a model score for all of these prospects. So like Puka I updated the model this offseason, changed things up a little bit just to get more accurate. I test things every year and I think of different ideas every year, stuff like that. Puka had a score of 60 basically out of 100, right? And which is not that great. But you shouldn't expect a day 3 wide receiver to have like an obscenely good score, right? But the one thing that was really interesting about his analytical profile, his yards per route run in college was out of control good. Like seemingly out of nowhere. Like his other metrics were fine, but not great. But his yards per route run, like I'm talking like top 5 in college football, his final collegiate season. And then from there, you start to layer on like the drumbeat out of LA and the way they were talking about him. And then, Jordan Rodriguez for The Athletic is just hyping him up like crazy. And so it's really easy to just kind of put those pieces together and be like, yeah, I'm going to draft Puka Nacua as much as I possibly can.
So yeah, I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is there anyone that you can think of? Like even like from like your profiles from year 1 and even year 2 going into year 3 or year 2 in the NFL. So not even just college guys, just rookies from last year, second year players. Is there someone that the model really likes that hasn't done anything yet and you could still see it happening?
Yeah, maybe not done anything, but I do think that there's some undervalued guys. Like one is Josh Downs, who, right now in the dynasty community is more of like a low-end wide receiver 3, high-end wide receiver 4 type. But he did a lot. So I always do statistical comps for these players coming out, and one of Josh Downs' top statistical comps was Tyler Lockett coming out, right? Lockett, obviously, in the NFL, not really just a slot guy. He plays all over. He'll play like half of his snaps from the slot. Josh Downs, though, profiled as a slot guy. And then in year 1, he had played 81% of his snaps from the slot. So he was basically just a slot guy, Downs was for Indianapolis. Tyler Lockett didn't have that kind of alignment with the Seahawks during his rookie year, but so many of their metrics lined up, like their yards per team pass attempt, their yards per route run rates, their targets per route run rates, their target share per game rate really lined up pretty favorably. And so I do these things called journey comparables with my year 2 model where I look at a player's prospect score. So Josh Downs was at like an 86, and then his year 2 score, which helps project how well a guy's going to do in year 2 and year 3, is like 92-ish. And I look at players in history who had a similar prospect score and then a year 2 score. I call them journey comparables because they're going through a similar journey from being a rookie to then being a year 2 player. And Tyler Lockett popped up for Josh Downs as his top comp. So I think that he has the skill set to be able to play more in the outside. Now, will Indianapolis do that? I'm not sure. But that's the kind of dart to throw. I mean, you're not going to have to give up that much in like a dynasty format or what have you, or even next year in redraft leagues to get a guy like Downs. So I think he's pretty interesting. Downs would be a guy that I could think of off the top of my head.
It's funny because you've been sending me the late round guide for ages, so I end up reading it every single year. But I was just like patrolling Reddit one day, and there was this Chicago Bears sub that was very upset with your model. And I just, it's so funny to read a Reddit thing like about someone. It's funny two different ones. Like recently, I saw I can't. It was probably like 3-4 months ago. It was like an old thread too, and it just popped up, and it was about you hating Velouz Jones, which was really funny. And like, so that's like on one end of the spectrum. And the other one, there was like this weird group where Tommy G was referenced about satanic stuff. I was like, man, I know these people. This is hilarious being on Reddit.
I got destroyed, but with the Velouz Jones take, by the way, like absolutely annihilated. There's an entire thread and post about it. People saying the most horrific things about me. And it's just so good just going back and reading that and realizing that, no, in fact, Velouz Jones is not the next Deebo Samuel, for the record. He is not.
No, when you draft a 74-year-old wheelchair-bound rookie, then maybe he's not going to be so good.
Yeah, pretty bad idea.
Yeah, the Bears fans were not happy about that.
See,
I don't get to interact with like fans of teams ever. I mean, I doubt you do all that much as well. Like working either in fantasy or gambling or daily fantasy, whatever it is. Like people are just more concerned about if you're right or wrong, because that actually makes people money that you don't really like. I mean, I would imagine you have a lot of Steelers fans in your life.
Yes, I do.
And are they like crazy people?
Yeah, they're nuts. I mean, like if I log on to Facebook or something after a Steeler game on Sunday, because I grew up in Pittsburgh and I was born and raised a Steeler fan. Do I love the Steelers now? Like I didn't. No, not at all, because I am up trying to, like you just do this and you just grow appreciation for like other franchises and what they do. And like, I like what the Ravens do. Like I was rooting for the Ravens last or 2 weeks ago. Like I wanted to see Lamar Jackson do cool things. If you would have told 18-year-old JJ that he'd be rooting for the Ravens, he would have punched me in the face. And so I view, the Steelers differently, but I log on to Facebook or something on a Sunday after the Steelers lose, and this has been happening for like a decade. It's just fire Mike Tomlin and just the most obscene, just ridiculous things going on.
Yeah, listen, you could fire Mike Tomlin and rehire Matt Canada as head coach.
Yeah,
I'm sure
exactly.
people would love that.
Yeah, it'd be great.
Yeah.
It'd be great.
Well, I think we filled our requirement. Getting people to watch this to talk about the Super Bowl because we actually have something real to talk about. Something tangible in our lives. The Challenge Season 39 right. Battle for a New Champion. We're up to the episode before the final starts next week, and the final
Supposedly,
based on the last few seasons will be 8 episodes or something like that.
Yeah, right.
I have liked this season, and I was talking to my producer Paul. He has also liked this season. We're not watching it together; we're independently watching it.
Yeah,
but everyone else, yourself included, hates this season.
Yeah, I think it's because everyone on the show has far too much confidence than they should have, right? They're doing things that they would never be able to do if it had a normal cast. Now, I don't even mean the majority being vets or anything. I mean, even if they split this 50-50 with a rookies vets type deal, even if they split it 50-50, a guy like Jay would not be running the show the way that he's running the show. And I know that some people can say that's great that he's able to, and we're seeing something different. I understand that argument and that side of things. But at the same time, the people who are running the show, in my opinion, are just not very likable. They're just not it's just more entertaining when you just have a little bit more substance behind those people. And not only that, but I think the real reason is I like seeing the come up of these guys. We both remember when Bananas got eliminated at the beginning of his first season, right? You see these players grow into these roles. I mean, Cara Maria was horrible when she first started the challenge, and then she grew into the challenger that she became, dominated, and became arguably the best female challenger of all time.
Oh, come on.
And I said arguably. I threw that out there.
I mean, I'll argue that. No.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. We'll say top 4. Top 4 is probably
top
fair.
4 is perfect.
Yeah, top 4 is probably fair. But what I'm saying is you at least see the evolution of that. You're just skipping it. You're skipping the evolution part. You're just all of a sudden Jay is the bananas of the house, right? Or I mean, not late bananas because people just want bananas out of the game all the time now. But you know what I'm talking about, peak bananas, or like a Devin or what have you. You at least could see the evolution for those people. You're not seeing that in the season because they don't need to do that.
No, I mean, this is season 4 for Jay, season 4 for Michelle. They've been put through the ringer with terrible gameplay. The funny thing about Jay this season, who has become the ultimate villain on this show, I think he works as a great villain because very rarely do you see a small guy as a villain.
That's true.
Someone who's just not physically imposing.
It was Devin is the only sort of kind of comp in terms of that, stylistically and stuff, but he's also got the charm to him that Jay doesn't have.
That season that Tori and Devin won felt rigged for Tori and Devin.
A little bit, yeah.
We need you guys. We get that you're good characters. We want people to like you. Here's a win. We need you to win so we can continue to have you back because it's not working out otherwise. It's not like they just gave this game to Jay. He has pitched a perfect game.
He has.
In terms of the season. It's just he's kind of unlikable. This is no different than when Kenny, Evan, and Bananas used to run the show. It's just 15 years ago, before everything happened with a lot of those guys, they were assholes. They were the villain, but they were the likable villain. Jay's just not a likable villain.
But I also think though the part of the issue is that they had, again, spoiler alert, but
There's
they
no
had
spoiler alert. We don't know who wins.
Okay.
We're spoiling up to what is aired.
So we're okay. The elimination with Nerys, Horacio, and Kylan. Right? When that happened, it felt like the season was over from the standpoint of we're now not going to have a final with this good versus bad, this good versus evil type battle that's been going on. That's the storyline that built and was created on the season, right? The good being Horacio, Kylan, Nerys, that sort of faction that developed, and then the evil being the Jay, Michelle, Mariah faction that's been built. And so I think because of that elimination, everyone on planet Earth watching that show, obviously not everyone on planet Earth is watching that show. Thank God. We probably don't need that. But everyone wanted Horacio and Kylan to just go up against Jay in the final. Like that would have been unbelievable television. And we're just not going to be able to see that. And all the final is now it's Nurys is the only good guy, quote unquote, left.
Which
right?
is hilarious because like in real life, she is a maniac.
Yeah, I know. It is funny that that's like the persona that she is now. Yeah.
But if she wins, was the season worth it? Because she is a big star on this show if she wins.
Yes, I agree. If she if she wins, it'd be a bigger upset than when like Kara won the what season was that? Whenever she was the
Vendettas when she beat. I mean, that's also another one that like Kara won fair and square based on the rules, but those rules were so janky to get her to win.
Well, I'm also curious how they're going to handle this final because if you look at the way they've handled, like the 3-person elimination, since they got to this final phase, it's obviously been not just physical because you can't just make it physical when you're doing men versus women. And so, it's just the way that it is, right? With these shows, like a man is just naturally going to be stronger. I hope Nurys destroys everybody. But if it's going to be, hey, you got to carry XYZ on your back for 15 miles, it's going to be more difficult for Nurys than it's going to be for a Jay, let's say.
But it's funny because the guys that are in the final
are not like
yes. Emmanuel's not that big. Jay and Nurys might be the same size.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. I that's what I'm saying though too, is that I am curious how they end up, what this final just generally. I'm assuming it's gonna be pretty cardio focused and a long distance type deal. What Nurys has shown most, she's a boss at puzzles, dude. Like I mean, my God, both of those puzzles. I mean, Olivia, you sent me the meme. Like she's still on that puzzle from that elimination. Nurys has got it, and she got the other one that Horacio and Kylan were struggling with. So I'm assuming it's going to be, the final is going to be pretty cardio and puzzle heavy, and not so much the strength aspect.
If that's the case, Nurys is going to win by a landslide.
I think she could. Yeah,
she has 2 things going for her: cardio and puzzles, and everyone else in this game who was good at puzzles is gone. Like the last threat that she had was Michelle. Michelle's also good at Michelle can't really do anything else besides politic and do puzzles, but she's great at puzzles. Kylan was great at puzzles. Ed was great at puzzles, but all those people are gone. It's just a bunch of like knuckleheads left.
Yeah. Now, I was hoping that we would see James in a final just to see him get destroyed.
See, I think that part is overblown. Because everyone talked about how he gassed out, right? In the very first elimination of the season.
Let's talk about James.
I like James. I went back and watched...
No, you don't like James.
Yeah, I went back and go James. YouTube some of his East of Essex clips from like... Listen, if you are on UK reality TV, you are a legitimate character.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. 100%.
But I think he knew, he's like, here's the only chance I have. Shut my mouth and bang Mariah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the route that he went. One of the most like obscene things that I've ever seen on the challenge was Mariah packing James's bags in that episode. Like the whole Mariah James thing was easily, but like I would listen to Jay talk for an hour more than watching the James and Mariah thing unfold in front of my eyes. It was just so tilting to watch.
Does Mariah own a full shirt?
I don't know. Yeah, she's never. Yeah, I don't know.
Someone described it as she has the fashion sense of like a WWF wrestler.
Yeah, it's kind of true.
It's bizarre.
But it's so weird because her first season when she was with Fessy, she was very likable in that season and she was a great competitor in that season. And I remember thinking like, oh, she could have a chance at doing whatever in the final. Like she's got strength, she's got the cardio down. And then this season, she just latches on to this dude who looks like he's got fake muscles. And
he does.
Yeah, right?
He looks like he has the Johnny Drama calf implants.
And look, I'm not one to talk. It's not like I'm in impeccable shape, but like, it's just, he's such an interesting, weird, not interesting. Interesting is not the right word. He's just such a weird character. And the way Mariah threw her game and threw the alliance, and then in turn effectively ruined the good guys that everyone was rooting for on the show. It just annoyed me. Like James just skated by while Kylan, who was crushing it, and Horacio had to just get thrown down there week in and week out. I wanted to, at least James went down there once, to be fair, but still, it was still just a frustrating thing.
I just know if it was me, that's exactly who I would be going after. I'd be like, Kyle or Horacio is going to win this. We have to get them out. And usually they talk about this, but then it's like with CT every single year. It's like, we really need to get CT out. And then no one ever votes him in. At least Jay and the gang had the gumption to be like, listen, every time we're throwing them in until they go. And somehow Narice was the one who knocked them out.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, and Horacio has no politicking game at all. I mean, like he is not, his social game's trash, right? And so the thing that really annoyed me most about Jay, that you know, I don't want to just talk about him constantly and all the time.
This is why it's a good season, by the way, because you have real like emotion of how much you don't like Jay, and you are rooting actively against him. This is 100%. A good thing. We haven't had a real villain like this in ages.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Like I've watched the show recently, and I'm like, yeah, I don't care who wins. I just want to have a good final, you know. But regardless, the thing that annoyed me most about Jay, it was the turning point in the whole show is the stalemate episode, right? It was the Kyle and Ed stalemate where he's throwing Narice under the bus, saying that she, you know, is voting for Ed, and it ruined everything, and it put him at risk for getting through. He could have changed his damn vote. He himself, Jay, could have changed the vote, but he doesn't take. It's never his fault. He never takes any, like, it's just, it drives me nuts, man. Like the dude can do no wrong with anything that he does. But he is wrong constantly in terms of being a morally, you know, within the context of the show, a morally decent person and friend. And he's just over and over again, doing things that are incredibly, incredibly selfish. And I understand it got him to this point, but I'm telling you, future seasons, he's screwed. I think he's screwed himself with the way that he's handled himself this season.
See, I think he was screwed on future seasons anyway, because he was just never going to win against those guys.
Maybe, but I don't think he's as bad of a competitor as you might.
No, I think that he's like super live to win this. Like if we had to power rank, like, you know, we do fantasy rankings, we'll do some fantasy rankings here for the final.
Yeah.
I would say that Narice is probably number one based on what we think that the final is going to be. I would say Jay is number two.
Yeah, I would think Jay is number two as well. But I would say even going into this season, Jay, as a male competitor at least, was probably top 5.
Yeah, and anything that doesn't involve size or strength, Jay is really good at.
Yeah, I mean, he's a rock climber. Like, those dudes can do crazy things with their bodies, and they're very, very capable. So like I do think that he's very, very live to win the final. But what I'm saying is, even in future seasons, when he's going up against whoever, you know, a Devin or a Bananas or a CT, like I still think that there are certain challenges where he can get the W and move on. Now, if he's in a hall brawl against Fessy, that's a different story. But like I still think that he's a decent enough competitor, and his social game is ruined based on this season. He has not made long-term moves, let's just say, on this show.
Sure, but we could have said the same thing about Devin for his like first 3 seasons too, and he never came out of it with a win, and then all of a sudden it just kind of flipped for him.
Okay, then I should say he's gonna have to do a lot of correcting. Right.
I feel like it's one of these things that once you're around for so long, and like you pass the phase from being like a new guy to being a vet like that, and there's no real set amount of time that you have to do it. It could be 2 seasons, it could be 5 seasons, whatever it is. But once you're in with the vets, you're like kind of in, and then it doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think though that, I mean, I would assume that this season, the people on this season are now, well, first off with Jay, people seem to like him enough on this season, right? Like people are doing whatever he says throughout the season, and they have been doing whatever he says throughout the season. So at least he has that going for him. But I do think that what we're going to see is the people who are on this season are likely going to group up in future seasons and have alliances to then take out the true vets, because I think that there is at least that sort of like camaraderie that will stem from this. So that maybe that's going to play in Jay's favor a little bit.
Unfortunately, I just don't see a lot of these people ever coming back again after this.
Yeah, season. No, it's fair. I mean, there's going to be, I mean, I would hope we see like Horacio and we see a Kylan after what, you know, like those types of, but they don't like Jay, right? The people who would be coming back are not on Jay's good side. But you're right. Yeah. I mean, some of the folks were not really that great.
Yeah, like if you're going to intermingle them with like the regular cast, which I mean, season 40 is scheduled to happen, but that might be the last one on MTV, and then it just moves over to like Challenge USA on CBS, which is a game I think more geared for Jay rather than the MTV version, because it is less physical. It's more, they don't want to see, I'll pepper your steak, I'll eat your brains, and CT drunkenly trying to kill someone. That's not going to happen on the CBS version of the show. So that's good news.
I miss those. I miss like the Adam CT days, man. That was peak Challenge.
It just they refuse to put it on air anymore. Like stuff like this is happening in this house. Like when you hear the cast members talk about it, they're like, yeah, there's drunken hookups all the time. They don't show anyone drink anymore. The only person they let drink are the UK people, like that they actually show, because they're like, oh yeah, it's UK, it's fine.
yeah, it's true. Yeah, the biggest thing this year was it Nerys
and Melissa and Berna.
Raven. And Raven. Remember wasn't it Raven and Nerys at one point?
No, it was Melissa threw the drink in her face.
Oh, Melissa, that's what it was. Yeah, but Raven had her moments too though this season. Like, there was some of that going. But so, I think you'll see like it used to be.
If we're gonna draft people for the next years that we'd want to see back, like I think Jay should come back. Like he's been.
Yeah, I agree.
He's been the main character of the season. He might be the first guy out on future seasons. So him,
which would make me happy.
Nerys,
Michelle
for sure. People are really mixed on Michelle. I love Michelle.
She's I don't love her as like I want her to win, but I think she's really good for the show.
And this is what I think that people get confused about. Like even when you go back and look at like the vintage cast that everyone loves, they're like when people see it now, it's like, oh, that person's a layup and this person's a layup. That's how the cast almost always was. There'd be like 5 really good competitors, a bunch of people in the middle, and then like 4 people you obviously knew were they're going to be the first 4 people out, because you need the shitty people to keep the other people around on your screens the entire time. Well, you don't want to lose bananas week 1.
True. Yeah, it's fair.
So you need your layups that are in there as well. It's just, it seemingly has become more pronounced now that people get upset like, well, not everyone is an all-star competitor. It's like, you don't want to see that. That's not good TV. Kyle and Horacio for sure. Nerys for sure. So there's 5. I would bring Melissa back because I love Melissa. Raven was pretty good. I bring Raven back.
Emmanuel will probably be back.
He doesn't do anything though.
He doesn't. You're right, but I think that he's good enough as a competitor, and he's still interesting enough as like a human that they would bring him back.
It's tough.
What about Berna?
I don't think we'll ever, unless Berna wins, we'll never see Berna again.
Yeah, I'm kind of feeling the same way.
And I you know what? I just think Colleen, great rack on Colleen, especially this episode. Love to see her back again. Just love to see her rack, but like we're not seeing her again either.
Yeah, I don't think we'll see her again.
It's tough. Like the English is a second language, people. It's just tough on an all English show.
It is tougher. Yeah, it is tougher. Unless you're Turbo and you're just completely psychotic.
Yeah, like if you're a crazy person and you're awesome at like if Horacio didn't speak English, no one would notice.
Right.
But
Horacio, I was actually thinking about this today. Horacio's game is very much like Jordan's game, except he doesn't have that. Like he's like a nice Jordan.
Which is the problem. Like Jordan's biggest edge is that he was a complete dickhead. Exactly.
Like that's the dip, but like people root for Horacio, obviously. Like good dude, just seems to have his head on straight and all that. But like he literally plays the game the same way that Jordan plays the game.
A little bit. Like Jordan will go out of his way to like be in the crosshairs because like he sees as a challenge.
Yes.
Horacio reminds me of a not as good Landon.
Okay, yeah, that's like the goody good side.
Landon, like Jordan will actively play politics.
No, Landon's the better comp.
Yeah, like Landon just didn't play politics at all.
Yeah, you're right.
He's just I'm going to go in and I'm going to win, and if I go into elimination, I'm just going to win that. Whereas Jordan will like position himself as a contrarian against people for no particular reason.
But the way that I see, the reason I bring that up though is like Jordan's just like the evil version, right? Like he's the I will get in the middle of this stuff, but Horacio is indirectly in the middle of this stuff. He's not meaning to be in the middle of this stuff, but he ends up in the middle of this stuff. But they're both so willing to just compete and just go do it. Whereas the vast majority, like even CT is not someone who's like openly wanting to go into eliminations all the time, even though he knows that he can win or would have decent odds to win. He tries to avoid it but a Jordan and a Horacio and I guess a Landon if you want to go old school, like they completely don't seem to care. I mean they do to some degree, but like there's just a different level of just wanting to compete in the arena than other competitors.
Yeah, a lot of them have figured out that the best way to not go home is not go into elimination.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's smart. Yeah.
Yeah, people are playing such a scared game. You mean like a good game?
Yeah, like a smart one.
Like the one where you're trying to win?
Yeah. Yeah.
And like it couldn't have worked out better for Jay with like I guess Nerys is now his biggest competition in the final based on what we've seen. But like it did actually get rid of all of the good players.
Yeah, I mean he played a flawless game like in terms of the game, right? In terms of the relationships and in terms of what could happen in future games. I don't know if it was flawless because I think people are going to look at him a lot differently. But in terms of this game, if he gets the win. If he wins, it's all worth it, right? Like it's like props to Jay. But if he loses, which I hope to God that happens, then I do think that it is going to have a net negative effect on him.
I also root for Corey, and I think I'm in a big minority.
Yeah, this is a weird. Tell me why you like Corey so much.
I don't know. I find that he's far more self-aware than maybe like you see glimpses of some of the things that he says, like because everyone is edited and like Jay is clearly edited in a way to make him look bad and make him look like the villain. Yeah. Like you can almost do that with anyone on like if they wanted to position it that Nerys was the villain and Jay was the good guy, they could edit it in that way with music cues, different clips of what they're showing. Like we see like 0.5% of what is actually going on in that house. And with Corey, like it, he got himself thrown under the bus a little bit early in the season. Then he played a really good game. I think he won the most dailies of anyone, him and Ed. Like he's a very strong competitor, but he's a lot like, I mean, he's not as good as Fessy because he's not as like, I mean, Fessy was what, a D2 athlete, like All-American. Like that guy's like a legit athlete. Corey's a good athlete. He's very big. And there are certain things that he's good at and certain things that he's not going to be good at. But I find his confessionals really good. And I find that he's able to articulate what is going on in the house much better than a lot of people. Now, maybe they're just allowing him to do that. Like they're making him the narrator for that part of the show. But I do find that one of the key things in the challenge is actually being able to figure out who is in what alliance, what the alliance is actually doing, and when people are coming for you. And he seemed to be very good at that this season. And making that weird middle alliance with like Berna and Colleen was like he recognized like, hey, I'm at the bottom of the big alliance. So I'm safe until I'm not. If I consolidate my power with these ones at the bottom, we just need to get lucky and we're home free. And that's what happened.
Yeah. No, you're right. Those are all very, very valid points. I remember the one conversation that he had with Colleen where it was like, hey, we gotta just be together because this is our only option right now because he understood where they stood. I think that the person with the arguably dumbest game this season was Ed, who just, I mean, I root for Ed because I think he's hilarious. And
is he from like your hometown in Pennsylvania?
No, he's on the other side of Pennsylvania. Do not group Ed with Western Pennsylvania here. He's an Eastern PA guy.
So he might as well be from Cincinnati, is what you're saying.
Yeah, no, the other way. Like he's like more Jersey.
Oh, okay.
Than he is. Yeah.
So he's like Philly.
Yeah, right. But he just had no awareness of where he stood with everyone in the house at all. And he really, I mean, technically he's a big reason that the demise of because he chose sides, right? But he's a big reason that the demise of the good guys ended up happening the way that it happened. If Ed just played it on the other side, he would have been higher in the alliance, and he would have been able to give them at least somewhat competitive numbers to fight off the Jay and Michelle alliance. But he just didn't know where he stood the entire season.
Yeah, I agree with what he did though. Like, why would you join if you're the best? Like, he was arguably the best player on like Jay's alliance, like physically. Why would you go to the other? Why would you team up with the other guys who were just as good as you when you could try to get them all out?
Because I think at the end of the day, like as the season were to go on, if you're talking about survivor or being a survivor as long as you can in the season, he was fine where he was. But like you want to, what I'm saying is like you want to maximize your probability to win once you get to the final. And if you look at it, like if you form an alliance with Kylan and Horacio, you're going to be a juggernaut in the dailies, and you guys will probably win like 80% of them and get to the final. But now you need to beat Horacio and Kylan once you get there. If you can say like, hey, I'll use my skills with Jay's alliance, and maybe we'll win like 65% of the dailies this way. At least when I get to the final, I have to beat Emmanuel and Jay, not Horacio and Kylan. See, I see it like the fantasy playoffs though, where I'm just trying to get there and I'm letting variance take over a little bit. And then that way, that's what I think doing going with the Horacio-Kylan alliance would have helped him. And plus, I think eventually, and we didn't get to really see it play out because he lost the daily, right? And he got eliminated immediately. But I feel like he would have eventually been one of the bottom 3 in the last 2 episodes, just the way that the numbers played out, because he was at the bottom of that alliance. Like, he's thrown in, like, do you think it would have hit him? Do you think he would have been saved just the way that the numbers broke down and the way they would choose and the way that the little draft would go? Do you think they would have chosen Corey or Ed first?
Ed.
Do you think for sure?
Yeah, I think Corey was on the bottom, unless Michelle was the one who actively saved Corey.
That's my thing. Yeah, exactly.
Like, but I think Ed had built up enough goodwill saving all of those people, because he won.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think that he got kind of crippled because he kept winning, and he was like, "I'm unbeatable," and then he fucked himself,
and then he just screwed himself in that daily.
Yeah.
I think that he is a good competitor. I want him to. He's another. I don't know if we named him for coming back, but he should come back too. I think that's
he's likable, but he's another one who just doesn't do anything in the house.
No, but I think that he's a good enough, like, he's cerebral enough, and he's got like the physique and such that he's an interesting character on the show.
And he too dresses like a pro wrestler.
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, he looks like a pro wrestler. Not even dresses.
There was 2 things from the last episode that I thought were strange. They clearly filmed all of the confessionals at one time after the season, hence why everyone is wearing the same thing.
Same outfit, yeah.
There was a confessional with Corey where he's wearing a different outfit, though, for the first time all year. He's not wearing like the Eddie Murphy raw, like, leather vest.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't notice that. When was it, like, late in the episode or early?
It was like midway through the episode. He was wearing like a fur coat.
Really?
Yeah, I was like, this is jarring. This is not what I'm used to seeing. And the other part of the episode, when Nerys comes back from beating James and whoever else it was, Mariah's out for, like, "Oh, Nerys, you're back." It's like, "Are you the only one?" She just goes, "Yep," and just walks by her into the house.
Yeah, and then whenever she Mariah's like really upset, and Nerys like was being just like a nice person at, in that moment, and she's like, "Sorry I had to do that," or something like that. Like, "Sorry I beat your boyfriend in this elimination," and Mariah just gets even sadder, and she's just like, "Get away from me." That was a good moment too.
Zaza I would want to see back too.
Oh yeah, that's because she's just a beast.
Yeah, although she would not win the final because I don't think she can add.
Oh yeah.
That's tough.
I'm telling, so you think okay, straight up right now, you're taking Nerys over Jay?
Yeah, just because I don't think Jay's good at puzzles.
I'd probably take Jay, but part of that is reverse psychology for me, so that if Jay ends up winning, I can say I was right, and then if he loses, I'm still happy because I don't want Jay to win.
Like, the only person that can win this, I think, is a non-moron. So you have to think about who the non-morons are.
Yeah.
And physically, Nerys and Jay are probably the best 2. Colleen's not a moron, but she seems awful physically, especially on long runs. So I don't know if she can actually, like, not get purged. Corey is kind of like the weird outlier, but big guys don't do well in finals.
I know. Yeah, it's usually like a West type or something like that.
Yeah, like he's a bit too jacked. Like we saw with Zach, when Zach Zach won the very first season that he appeared on against a super weak cast, and he never won again. And the only time they ever did really well in a finals after he had he had more CrossFit body rather than jacked up football player body.
Yeah. Yeah. And like Brad started getting worse the more jacked he got too.
Yeah. He also became more insane the more jacked he got.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess it's probably down to Nerys and Jay. Now that I'm thinking about it,
I mean, maybe Emmanuel can luck into like puzzles he knows.
Emmanuel, that's it. I think he though is in like the Corey tier, where Corey I feel better about the puzzles, and Emmanuel obviously feel better about the cardio and the running and stuff.
Yeah, the cardio and running is not going to be a problem for Emmanuel, but I do think like once you get into word problems, and then you have people who are English as a second language, it's inherently more difficult for them.
Right. Yeah.
I remember I took calculus in my final year of high school, and it was basically the same class the first year that I got to college, but I had taken French immersion for math all the way from like the 4th grade through the end of high school. So all of the word problems that I was used to solving in calculus were en français, and then when I got to college, they were all in English, and it took me like a month to readjust all the terms in my head. And I spoke English better than I spoke French. I just wasn't used to it.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Like when you're trying to calculate the slope, as it turns out, not le pont. It can be somewhat jarring when you're doing it.
You Canadians, man.
I know.
It's so much more difficult up there.
If you want it to be more difficult, it can be more. You don't have to do this stuff.
I mean, doing this in multiple languages seems like it's just not a good time. Not a good time at all.
It's not. But you almost guarantee yourself, as I found out going through the system, because this was all public school, you ensure yourself like the non-crappy class if you're in French immersion. Like there are distractions, but like the bad kids in French immersion who like disrupt the class were like me. Not actual people who were like fighting in the middle
going
of class.
to jail and stuff.
Yeah.
I got you.
That would be a way to separate yourselves. And we were separated into portables anyway. It was really weird. Anyway, JJ, it was a blast. Thanks for talking challenge.
Yeah, man. I'm excited about the final. Like I said, I just please, anyone but Jay. Anyone but Jay. That's really where I'm at right now with this.
ABJ?
Anyone but Jay. Yeah, ABJ.
If it's not Nerys or Jay, who would you want?
I don't know. No one. I'm trying to think who. So let's name probably Corey.
Yeah, Corey, Emmanuel, Berna, Colleen, Mariah, and someone. Maybe that's all of them.
Jay, Berna, Emmanuel, Corey, Mariah, Colleen, Nerys. Is
there only 7?
There's gotta be 8, isn't there 8?
I thought there was 8 too. So there's someone like really insignificant that we're just not thinking about.
Yeah, because Olivia's gone, James is gone. Yeah, maybe there's just the 7.
Yeah, because there was 10. Oh no, that would make sense because there was 10. There was 2 heats of 5 for the winner and losers bracket on that.
One got out and then 2. Yeah,
and then 2 got eliminated. So there's 7. Yeah. How many do you think get eliminated in the final before like the final is done?
3. It's probably gonna be a 4-person end to it. Probably. I'd say like maybe one really early, and then
a 3-person purge,
and then to get maybe like one. Yeah, right. To get one to just kind of get some variance in there and get some drama early on, and then an overnight 2, like maybe right when they wake up or something.
Yeah, well, the bottom they'll probably purge 1, and then the bottom 3 will go into like the 3-way elimination where one person
and then 2
comes
will
back.
be gone. Yeah, and then there'll be 4 for the final day.
This season has been better than each of the past 3 seasons, by the way.
I don't think that's
which have been terrible seasons. It's just you're familiar with the names.
Yeah, but I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like that's
but the seasons are actively bad.
This season, though, the other piece that we didn't even talk about this season is you mentioned like it being on CBS and stuff, and it would be a lot like cleaner and whatnot. But like there hasn't been that many physical eliminations and such. Like that's been kind of annoying. That like they're bringing back these legends, and every single elimination is puzzle based, and there's nothing that's there's a strength component to it or like a cardio component to it, but it's like very small. It doesn't matter. You catch up. The only one that's been like you had the Jordan elimination with what's his face early on where they had to run back and forth, and Jordan completely, that was epic. Him just like taunting him the entire time. And then the Brad one with Kylan, right, where they had to go up and down like it was like a play place, where they had the giant balls that they had to carry up and down. That was physical. But most of them, even like Laurel being there, it's like there wasn't a physical. I want to see her just destroy and like manhandle somebody in the arena because in the elimination, because that's what she does. Or like CT, it was a math problem,
And at least he's good at math, so that's helpful.
Yeah, it was good that he,
There's a guy we didn't talk about. I would love to see Asaf come back because he is delusional.
Yeah. Is it officially Asaf now? Because wasn't it Asaf before? Didn't they go back and forth with his name? But yeah, I agree. I think that he at least is an easy, I just can't stand this guy target while you're watching the show.
100%.
So, sure.
And he thinks he's a real player.
Yeah. And you also another guy like do you think like Huey's gonna be back?
No, I don't think you can add like he was just not.
Do you think that you're gonna have a bot? But I'm talking like you have or is like Asaf the bottom tier kind of just throw in that you have now?
Yeah, because I think he could win something. Like he seems to be. If you want to say like James has fake muscles, he seems like he has fake muscles.
Yeah. James is just I don't know. It's like his posture or what it is, but it's just so strange to me. He could whoop my ass, but like. I'm just saying, like, he just seems like he's not as fit as he sort of appears or initially appears.
You see, I have a friend like this, and like he's super jacked, and he's a terrible athlete. Just a terrible athlete, but he just does steroids and goes to the gym. He's jacked.
Just goes to the gym.
Yeah.
But like it's so weird because like, you know, I'm running a half next month, right? And so like, you know, I've been running a little bit and training for it a little bit. And this is one thing I've always wanted to talk to you about. Can we talk about it really quick? I need to bring this up. This is one of the craziest feats that's ever happened on this show that no one ever talks about. Okay. So I do a decent amount of cardio. Like I do Peloton and I'll run and all that kind of stuff. And so, you know, on Peloton, like I'm a good Peloton rider, right? Like I'll rank in like the 98th percentile ish whenever I'm doing a Peloton ride, right? And humble brag, I know. I'm only saying that because it's important to preface with this because I know how destroyed I get on certain rides if I'm like really going hard for like a 20-minute interval or something like that, right? Not like a 20-minute ride, nothing super long. There was a final. You know the history better than me with like the actual seasons and stuff. But Bananas was in a final, and it was that overnight, you know, they were doing stuff all day long, and then they had to ride a bike. Do you remember this?
Now, is this the one from last season with Horacio, or is it the free agents one with Nani and Laurel?
Might have been the free agents one. It was like it was more years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, because Nani gave up and then went back to it, and that's why she ended up losing.
Yeah, I think that it might have been that one. So Bananas is on the show, right? And so Bananas is in the final. I think he won this season. Did he win that season? Yeah. Okay. And so he hops on the bike, and they have to go 25 miles. Okay, on this bike. And then once they do the 25 miles, they don't really know what happens afterwards, but they just go to their tent and they can sleep and rest up. So you want to be done faster so that you can rest up more. Bananas did his in an hour. Okay. So he went an entire day of doing this challenge and destroying his body. And then he rides 25 miles on the bike in 1 hour. He did 25 miles an hour for an hour-long duration. When on my Peloton rides, Pat, I'm doing to be in the percentile that I'm in, I'm at like 24 to 24 and a half miles an hour over 20 to 30 minutes, and I'm destroyed. And that's me hopping on after analyzing fantasy football in my mom's basement all day, right? This is Bananas destroying himself and then doing that. And there was only one Reddit post I could find on it of someone like praising him, but it is the most insane feat that I've ever seen on that show aside from the backpack, probably.
Okay, there's two things. If what you're saying is true, then yes, I hadn't even considered that. But crazy, sure, but they kind of fudged the margins with the times on a lot of this stuff. It could have been like 2 hours, not 1 hour.
I know, but the way that they said, like, that's how they framed it. They literally framed it as this was an hour, and they showed like the duration. Like, I'm pretty sure they showed the clock and stuff. Someone can fact check the shit out of it.
You can show whatever clock that you want too.
Yeah, no, I know. But let's just say hypothetically, if he did that, that is incredible. Like that's beyond, like, I can't even comprehend how he would be able to do that.
Well, what's funny is because they did that last season too, and Horacio dusted them it dusted Bananas in it.
Yeah. I mean, Horacio's a freaking beast, dude. Like he is. Again, I now that you brought up the Landon comp, he is very much like a Landon on this show now, like new Landon.
Except he doesn't have the real world season where he was just getting drunk and fighting with people every night, then had to sober his life up.
That was a great season though, the Landon season.
Real world Philly with MJ.
Yeah,
and Karamo, who's like a big star now.
Yeah, exactly. It was a really, really good season.
I'll tell you, after Inferno 2, I did not think that Karamo was going to be a big star after CT yelled at him for not getting in the water because he was afraid of eels.
I remember that. What's your favorite real world season of all time?
It's not the best real world season, but Vegas 2 with Nani, Dustin. Okay. That one sticks out so fresh in my mind still, and I think it's been like 15 years since that was on air.
Wasn't Leroy?
Yeah, Leroy, Mike.
Yeah, Mike. Yeah.
Mike, Adam Royer, who got kicked off, and then he got kicked off this first episode of the challenge.
That dude was crazy.
Nani, Heather, Dustin Zito, who was in gay porn,
Oh,
and then
Heather,
that came
who
out.
dated Dustin, right?
Yeah.
Heather and Dustin were together.
And then he was doing adult film with other men. And
Yeah,
then,
he had a really weird. Yeah, he was like walking. Yeah, it was some weird like streaming stuff.
yeah, and something ended up. I mean, whatever you want to do, just then that came out while he was on the challenge, and like,
Yeah.
no one was very graceful about it.
Yeah. I mean, especially back then. I think my favorite season was San Diego, first San Diego
With Brad and Robin,
Robin, Frankie,
Cameron.
Jaquise. Yeah, Cameron and what's her name? The actress,
Jamie Chung.
Jamie Chung. And then what was the Randy? Is that his name?
Yeah, Randy was on that one.
Because they had that was the whole, remember they had that Bazooka Joe thing that season where and then like at one point Brad was in jail. And he's like, he like sent the voicemail. He's like, I'm in jail. Get me out. Just such a good season, dude. So good.
That was
Rest
from
in
like
peace, Frankie.
2001.
Yeah, I know. I was a very impressionable age for me too. It was like perfect for my, I'm like a 8th, 9th grader at the time. It was perfect. I loved it.
Yeah, Vegas 1 was awesome too, with like Alton and Trishelle.
Vegas 1 was good. Yeah.
I'm trying to think of like the newer ones. Like the last real world season was Portland, which I really liked, but it was.
Oh yeah. Was it the Jordan one?
Yeah, it was Jordan, Naya, Marlon, Avery. Avery's back on All Stars 4 is coming out soon. It's coming out like I think in March, right when this season ends. And the female side of that cast is fucking stacked. It's Cam, Cara, Laurel, Nicole, others, and the male side is just trash.
Is it?
But we get Avery back.
Also...
I bring it up because Avery is back, and like she's
nice.
She's a cover girl for Hooters now. I follow her on Instagram, and she looks great.
She was dating what was the dude from that? He was good in the chat. He got to a final, right? What was his name? Like the fireman?
It was Johnny Riley.
Yeah. He
got to the final of free agents because he never went in. He kept drawing the safe card.
Yeah.
And he almost beat Bananas.
You have a better memory of the season. Like you would be very good at a final puzzle where you have to remember all of the seasons and just random factoids about the show, or just a random trivia day.
Yeah, just me and Nerys, the two things we're good at: cardio and memorization of things that we've watched.
There you go. I'm telling you though, man, the Bananas biking thing was, if true, probably not true. Let's just assume it's an hour and a half and not an hour. Okay, not as crazy. But man, if he's going 25 miles for a full hour after that day, I mean, he's even more insane than I thought.
I'll find out. I got a couple of friends who are friends with Bananas, so I'll text them and I'll try to effort this for you.
Please, it's literally like one of my biggest. There's always like something on TV that you just need to know, like whether it's reality or not. This has been the thing that's been in the back of my head for like 15 years or however long it's been. I need to know.
I'll throw out that I think the most impressive thing that anyone's ever done on this show was Jordan fracturing his leg in the very first part of the final on a parachute jump and then still outrunning everyone.
Yeah. That, okay. I'm going to piggyback off that. I actually wrote about this in the intro of my draft guide this past year. The Jordan Josh tug of war was one of the most insane. I don't want to say it was just pathetic on Josh's part because I wouldn't be able to beat Jordan at anything, but the fact that he won a tug of war with one hand is against a behemoth. I mean, Josh is 6'5", 250, right? And he's still, it was just unbelievable.
Are you doing any other reality, or is it just the challenge?
You told me to start watching Traders. I started watching Traders.
Do you like it?
I love it. We just got to, I don't want to spoil anyone.
No, let's not spoil Traders, but it has people we like on it.
So I haven't gotten to season 2 yet.
Skip season 1. Just go straight to season 2.
Season 1, but season 1's been good.
Season 1 is fine, but they get rid of there's no one on season 2 who's not like a reality person.
Yeah, who's not, okay.
There's no normies on the season, which just makes it better because everyone's like good at being on TV.
Right. But no, I like, it's finally, we probably only have 2 episodes left, but it's finally like just the mind F that goes on with the way these people are thinking. It's just crazy on that show.
So when you moved to the South, you didn't start watching Southern Charm?
No.
Southern Charm rules.
I don't need more of this in my life.
Why not?
I have enough trash television in my life.
No, you can always just inject more trash television into your veins.
I can't take
like you're not watching
Vanderpump
television either.
I'm not. You're right. I'm not.
No Vanderpump, no Southern
And
Charm.
I got rid of.
You're just
I got
out
rid
on
of
Bravo.
Are you watching? You're not watching The Bachelor anymore, are you?
No, I gave that up years ago. Once I stopped doing the fantasy game, I gave it up, and it got really bad.
It got really, really bad, and I don't know. I don't think Chris Harrison actually had anything to do with it, but it really did correlate with him leaving.
Oh, he's not even the host anymore?
No.
Who hosts?
No, there was a huge controversy.
Was he like banging the contestants?
No, it was more of like a race-driven thing. You should look it up. I'm not gonna speculate.
Really?
Yeah. So, but I think it was a race-driven thing. But he left, and they've had I think Jesse Palmer's the host now.
Really?
Pretty sure. And they had I think a rotating host at some point. I think Paradise has Jesse might be the Paradise host too.
He was left the franchise in 2021 after his interview with extra correspondent and former Bachelorette Rachel Lindsay ignited allegations of racism. I listened to Rachel Lindsay's show on The Ringer because she always recaps all these Bravo shows that I like.
Oh, nice. Yeah. But yeah, I don't I don't know if he had anything to, I was starting to lose interest probably in 2019, 2020, but I have not watched that show. That show's just not great anymore.
I mean, it wasn't ever great anyway, but it was
it was okay.
It was knowingly winking enough that it was fun. Also, it became too much. It was on twice a week, and it was 2 hours long each time. I just didn't have the time to watch it. This has become the most critical thing I can say of the challenge, and the reason why people don't like it as much now and say that it's absolute trash is the order that MTV put in from Buna Murray, where it has to be 21 episodes that are an hour and a half each. All the best seasons that we remember are 60 minutes and 12 episodes.
Yeah, you're right. It's a good point.
You don't get any of the shit that you don't care about. It just all gets condensed.
Yeah. I think with The Bachelor though too is culturally people were really into it. There was a peak, a very clear peak, and it was that that aspect was fun. Just being on social media and being able to make jokes about The Bachelor and a lot of people understanding the joke and stuff like that. It just doesn't exist like that anymore. Now,
do you think that's because of the fracturing of culture, or people just get tuned out of The Bachelor?
Probably a little bit of both.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah.
LateRound.com. When I can pre-order it for $12 right now.
Pre-order it for $12, then it'll be $15 on March 11th when the pre-draft guide drops, and then the post-draft guide will drop the weekend of the draft. Once it's all done, I work on it nonstop to get it out for your rookie drafts.
So if I buy it for $12 now, I'll get the post-draft stuff, right?
You will get it. It'll be emailed to you. Yep.
Easy. Yep. Easy game. LateRound.com. Go support JJ. Not that he needs my endorsement to support him because he is much bigger than I am in terms of following and getting. But hey, maybe there's people, because we never do anything together, people don't know that we know each other.
I know, and we've known each other for a decade now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just when I go with DraftKings and you go with FanDuel, it's tough to do shows together.
I know. It's over now, though.
And here we are.
For me, at least.
Now we can be friends again on camera. It's terrific news.
That's right.
We can start our own challenge podcast next year.
There we go. Don't tempt me, man. Do not tempt me.
Listen, I got time. I got tons of time. Anyway, I'm Pat Mayo. You can follow me at the PME on Twitter. RunTheSims.com is free this week. Rate and review the podcast, sub to the YouTube channel, and smash the like on the way out. All right. And PrizePicks.com, code DOP. That link is down in the description right now to get that deposit match of up to $100. So go check that out. All right. I'm Pat Mayo. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.
Mayo Experience! Experience!